Hi guys, welcome to Farmer Fridays, where I get to interview different agriculturists all over the state of West Virginia and now different parts of the nation. I'm really excited to share this interview with you guys today. I think it's probably one of the most special ones that I've had for three different reasons. The first one is this is actually my very first in-person recording that I've ever done. I started this in 2020 when COVID hit, and it was for the whole purpose of the idea that I wasn't able to get close to anybody. And now I have the ability to travel to different people and have these conversations. So I'm really excited to just kind of have somebody actually next to me as opposed to staring at them through the screen. So that's pretty exciting. The second reason why this one is so special is because Angelina is my best friend. And we've known each other since college. We went to Delaware State University together. We were also roommates. And I was part of the agricultural sciences department, and Angelina was part of the natural resources department. And people don't really see those two things as working together, but they really do all the time. And I think that's a really common misconception that I like talking about. But I think our friendship is a great way to kind of bring that
full circle.
Full circle. Yeah, I love that. And then the last thing that makes this podcast or this interview specifically so special is the idea that we're talking about an industry that I haven't touched on yet through this podcast. And I got asked a question about this at Miss America on stage, and I had a lot of people come up to me and have a conversation about it after. And I thought it would be really special to, again, bring somebody who is invested in this industry to you. So right to you guys. So we'll go ahead and get started. So today I've got Angelina Watts, who is working as with a full-time career in the cannabis industry. So Angelina, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm super excited about this. I've never done a podcast before, so this is the first time for me. And I'm super excited to talk about it.
Hey, I'm glad. And I'm really excited for you to share your story. I'm just excited to hear
a lot.
Yeah, it is, but it's really good. So we'll start off with, my introductory kind of question, in the sense that I just want to know a little bit about you and your agricultural background. I mean, I know about you, but people at home don't. So go for it.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just start from when I was little. I grew up loving horses, and I always knew I wanted to ride horses. And when I was in second grade and prior to that, we weren't in an area where that was available. And then we moved to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and I was guaranteed by my mom that we would find riding lessons. And I was fortunate enough to show all through my childhood life through 4-H, staying at the fair and participating in all of the events and things like that. It was an amazing opportunity, and having that experience with agriculture at the same time. And then fast forward a few years, I had my first show experience with our previous coach, and she was the judge, and she kind of roped me into the equestrian experience through college, and let me know about the program at Delaware State University. And that was my next goal, to ride at Division I level on the NCAA equestrian team. So with that said, I worked hard and graduated high school and started as a student athlete at Delaware State. I grew up hunting and fishing, and I really thought I wanted to be a fisheries biologist. And I spent my entire college career studying fisheries. I worked under professor doing Atlantic sturgeon research, which is pretty special. Atlantic sturgeon are a prehistoric fish that have been around long before we even existed. And I got to spend time doing research of an endangered species, and I did that for 2 years. And then COVID hit, and I was like, what's next for me? I want to try something new in the natural resources field, but no one was hiring. And so being on the Eastern Shore, I was just looking around for different environmental jobs. From natural resources to working in an experimental lab, anything. I applied, and no one was biting. But I had a friend who worked at a medical cannabis grow, and I was like, well, that's something plant related, interests me. I had no idea what it meant to grow cannabis or anything like that. But she loved the job and said it was a great experience. It had a schedule, which was something I wasn't used to before, which we all know is hard in the agriculture and natural resources business. I'm very oriented in the fashion of I like schedule and routine. So I was like, I'll give it a try. And I started at the low end of the totem pole and worked my way up. and now a supervisor at a pretty amazing facility.
That's awesome. And that kind of tells me my next question is what led you into the working into this field. So you never really expected to jump into this kind of an industry.
Yep.
But now that you are and you say that you love it, I guess what's the next step for you in the sense of, so you're a manager right now, you're going to continue to stay in that position for a while.
Yep. So the medical cannabis field in itself is very diverse. If you think about production as a whole, you need everyone from an inventory manager to someone that works in HR and everything in between. So that's managers and leads and technicians and anything else you can think of, people that work with packaging or people that work with plants. And so it allows a lot of different opportunity. For some reason, maybe I decide I don't want to, follow the plant route. I can switch sides and go more of the people route or maybe inventory or anything. So I'm very happy where I am right now because I spent a lot of time training people that have had no experience, just like myself, into someone that is very knowledgeable and great at their job. And I just find that very rewarding.
And I definitely know that you're great at your job. So in our college apartment at Delaware State, we had an insane amount of any kind of plant under the sun. And Angelina was our resident plant grower. She's phenomenal. She's got a major green thumb. And I'm sitting here in her home right now, and I'm surrounded by plants. So she's amazing. And I can definitely tell that you are really good at that, whether you are on the plant side or the person side of things, or like and you're just a great people person in general. So I know that you're great at your job. And something else that I wanted to touch on too is in my hometown, we're actually opening a medical cannabis processing center, and people are a bit concerned in West Virginia. So if anybody at home, you're not, too familiar, we are still in the Eastern Shore right now. I am in Maryland. Angelina works in Maryland. I live in West Virginia, so laws are different across state borders. So in West Virginia, we're opening that medical cannabis processing center, and people are a bit concerned. And in my mind, I see so many job deserts in our state. This is, I feel like, a route to fixing that problem. Do you think? You just mentioned how diverse it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's an amazing experience. Just starting out, I had no experience with what I was doing, but I was able to pull the experience I gathered from working in fisheries. And also I worked at an oyster hatchery for a summer. It's all production and it's all very similar in that sense. So I was able to take that skills and apply it to what I'm doing now. And anyone can do that. So we find that a lot of people excel at this job that have had restaurant experience or just anything fast paced and oriented in that kind of fashion, or very much detail oriented, or pharmacy, or anything really, or none at all. You could be, fresh out of college and ready to start something new. So to provide people with that kind of opportunity in an area that doesn't otherwise have it, it's great. And I don't think it should be something scary. I think it should be something exciting. But I do understand why it's scary, because it's new. It's to think back, like, this is a brand new industry that has never been tested. We're building from the bottom up. You're thinking about production of consumer goods, or let's say cardboard boxes or anything like that. That's been going on for, decades, whereas this has only become legal in our lifetime. So there's a lot to do and a lot to learn, and you can provide that influence yourself. You can pave the way to what this looks like and be a part of it versus just being an employee. Yeah.
I love that. And you just said something that might concern some of my viewers, in the sense that this hasn't been tested. When you mean that, this is just a new industry. It's a growing industry.
Of course.
But there is still a ton of research that has already been done to back this up and to make this a safe and consumable product. I do want to talk about too, on the Maryland side of things, but I'm sure if this becomes legal for recreational use in the state of West Virginia, those rules and regulations would be adopted in our state as well. So I wanted to go ahead and touch on the rules and regulations that you know of in the state of Maryland that make this a safe and consumable product.
So first off, it's very important to note that all of this information is online and available to the public. And another note of that as well is Maryland is right at the fringe of becoming recreationally legal. And with that as well is a lot of different regulations that's separate from the medical market, and which is also publicly available. They have the template or the rough draft of what that would look like come July 1st. So then all of us can take a read and, see what that looks like. And I think that's really important for the consumer and just the public to know that, this is going to be a safe, consumable product for somebody, and comparable to hopefully pharmaceuticals one day. So with that, it's important to note the regulations on what we're allowed to use, and all that included with that. It's very much compared to any other agricultural product. Growing soybeans in a field, we're only allowed to use certain chemicals or fungicides, biopesticides, and that's it. We're very restricted, and that's good. I think it's great. There's concern that we're doing things that people don't know about, or we're hiding things, but within the state of Maryland, it requires all of these facilities to get third-party testing on all of our products, which is very important. So that means what you're buying from our company is tested the same as somewhere else, and that's consistency, and that's what the consumer needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes people more comfortable with what they are consuming. And I love that idea. I also love the idea that you're using biocontrols too. So that's something else that we haven't jumped into at all on this podcast, is the use of different insects or different plants to mitigate pest control or mitigate the issue of pests or issues that you might find in growing plants. And I think sometimes too, we forget the idea that you're just growing plants.
Yeah, it's just a plant. It existed long before we put it inside a building or, made it precision. It grew wild somewhere at one time. So it's subjected to the same things that corn or anything else has ever been.
And you are utilizing precision agriculture to make this happen, which is the exact same procedures that somebody who's growing lettuce or tomato plants might utilize as well.
Exactly.
So that's just an awesome thing.
It's hand in hand. So let's say I don't want to do this field anymore and I want to work growing lettuce or other goods. I can do that and apply the same skills I have now there.
Yeah, I love that. And then I also wanted to touch on, I don't have that on my list right now, but my brain is just going wild right now because I just think of way too much stuff all the time. The idea that you can put into what you're growing, what you get out of it, in the sense that you can have this as a renewable resource.
Yep.
Yeah. So are you able to go into that or not?
Not a ton.
Okay.
A lot of industry secrets and things that can't be disclosed, unfortunately. And that just comes with the nuance of this field. I feel like years from now, it'll be an open thing that everybody talks about it the same. Coming from something that was previously black market to now fully public, most companies are very reserved about what they're giving away.
Yeah, but drawing the same parallel, think about companies like Purdue.
Yep.
When you're growing poultry for Purdue, there are a lot of industry secrets that you can't share with people. So it's the exact same thing.
Restaurants too.
Yeah, it's all in the same company that you're working with. It's not because it's like some top secret plan. It's the idea that it's the company itself that isn't sharing that information.
Yeah, we're good at our job, and we want to hold on to that. If everyone's good at it, then there's no business. So.
Yeah, I love that. Moving forward, you just mentioned something about it becoming legal for recreational use in Maryland. What do you think that's going to look like for the state of Maryland?
Sure. So I'll kind of talk about the difference first. So currently we're only a medical market. So that is tax-free, cash only business. So you have to acquire your certification and be approved through a doctor to get your card to then go to a dispensary and purchase products, just like any other prescription medication. So same way, only difference is cash, and that's just because it's federally illegal and a lot of banks don't want to deal with it, unfortunately. So with the transition to recreational, we'll still maintain both, and most companies as a whole will still sell both. The difference is just what happens to it. So the recreational products will be taxed as alcohol or any other product like that is. And then that gets, spit back up into the state as taxes and revenue for, roads, schools, whatever they want to do with it. So
Yeah.
that's the difference there. People that have their medical card now will be able to maintain that, and those that know nothing or don't use it for medical purposes and kind of want to use it recreationally instead will be able to do that, but it might be at a little bit higher of a price. But they have to weigh the benefits of both and maintain both in that fashion. So kind of weigh which one you want to pick.
Yeah. So something else that I really don't know much about, I mean, I haven't really looked into this too much in the state of West Virginia. There are age caps for somebody who wants to purchase marijuana for recreational use, correct?
Yes, you have to be 21.
Yeah,
so just like alcohol and cigarettes, same thing.
Yeah, no, makes perfect sense. I do want to...
One second though, on that though, we do allow or some states allow children to consume, or you can become a certified caregiver. So then let's say myself, I can go and purchase the products for my elderly grandmother or maybe my child, and so that they can consume in a safe fashion and get relief that they need.
Yeah, go into that a little bit for the medical uses of marijuana.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other great resources available. Netflix and stuff has really taken off on, different documentaries and TV shows and things that are very informative to kind of get you out there and learn about it. But primarily it's used for pain, cancer, anxiety, depression, PTSD. Pretty much there's so many different uses just because of the ways that you can consume it, I would say. So you can go from having something that's topical, and you can apply on your joints because you have really bad arthritis, or you can take an edible, or there's also tinctures and things that you can mix with your food, and they each have a different effect and a different way of helping you. And then you also have the common smokable option with flower, whether that's in a joint or a bowl or whatever you want to choose, but each has a different effect for different people, and people use it in different ways. A lot of people find relief with nausea that are going through chemotherapy, or just rest, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if this is something that you are considering as an option, make sure that you're consulting a medical professional to get that information from them first. Neither of us are medical professionals, but we're just here to talk about what we know. And, again, if this is something that you are interested in, make sure that you're talking to your doctor. But it is a viable option for so many people. And I know in the state of West Virginia, we have the opioid crisis, and that's because of pain management. People are using prescription painkillers to help with their pain management, whereas they could potentially follow this route to mitigate those issues.
Of course. And the opioid crisis it's scary. I've seen firsthand with family members, just not even just opioids, but other prescriptions, just being prescribed things because they have an ailment rather than figuring out why that ailment's occurring.
Right.
And then they're ending up on something that is much stronger or not needed. Whereas they could use maybe edibles day to day or a tincture to kind of mitigate pain or anxiety or anything like that. And I just think it's an amazing route because it's not made in a lab in that sense. It's grown naturally. It grows naturally in our environment. And you can only believe that maybe our ancestors used it to mitigate issues that they were having when pills didn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So switching gears just a touch and going back into something that we had mentioned before, something that I love talking about, and this whole podcast revolves around agriculture. So I wanted to go into, how do you think that, production of cannabis could affect the agricultural industry?
I think it can only make it grow. It's pretty amazing. Just the resources that we use are the same that any other company uses. So that means that we're reaching out to companies that are local for, different goods, and we're consuming in much the same way, let alone the job opportunities that provides for someone with an agricultural degree.
Right.
Maybe they want to take it from, from one level, up to something that's precision agriculture. It's very scientific. You're catering to these plants in a way that the outdoors does not provide, and you're giving them exactly the right kind of nutrients and lighting and things, and you're producing art basically. And there's a lot of fine tuning involved with that, and mind work and science. So it's very interesting and a lot to learn. And we're just going to keep learning about it and get better at it. And I think it's a great avenue for agriculture, to explore something new, which hasn't been done, I wouldn't say, in very, very recently.
Yeah, no, my on-stage question at Miss America was actually just about this. Do you believe in the legalization of marijuana? That was my question.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know a lot about that, but I know enough about the agricultural side of things to think about it from that perspective, in the sense that I know it's going to increase agricultural revenue. I know it could increase land use for agricultural purposes. And like you said, it can only go up. Helping with the ag industry can only make it better. So this is such a viable option that people could explore. And I think that we as a whole, we don't explore the things that we're scared of.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the hesitancy comes from. It's something new. And in the town that we're operating in, it was the same kind of deal. And then until we started bringing tours on site and, showing them that this isn't something scary, we're just regular old people, making a living and doing something amazing. It's a lot less scary, and people are a lot more open-minded to it once they see it and understand it.
Absolutely. And now I'm going to ask you a question. I think we all know the answer to this question, or the answer that you're going to provide. But I'm going to ask you the same thing that I got asked. Do you believe in the legalization of marijuana?
I truly believe it. We were just watching a show that said decriminalize plants, and I think that is the statement of the year. It's pretty baffling to me, honestly, that we are, as human beings, are banning something that existed for I don't know how long, hundreds and thousands of years maybe, but fact check me on that one. But something that grows naturally and will grow naturally if we don't touch it. And I just think that's scary that we have decided that something's illegal, and it's a plant. It should be federally legal, and we should be able to do research on it just like anything else. And be able to get it to a point where we can really define what dosage looks like day to day for each type of ailment that's out there. And unfortunately, that kind of research isn't available because it's not legal. Limited research is very limited to now just hemp, which is a similar plant. It produces CBD versus THC, but it's still not the same. And as much as we want to do research on that, it's not going to be the same as if you're actually looking at a cannabis plant that's producing THC.
Right, exactly. My brain just left my body. This happens all the time. Oh, so my thought process moving forward is the idea that if it is federally regulated, and we do legalize it, then it is going to be that safer product to consume, as opposed to something that your friend might be growing, or you get it from again, unsafe resource or unsafe sources. So having that legalization, I think, would just only benefit people moving forward.
It's safer. It's a safer product. I know a lot of people that have smoked cannabis for most of their life, and until it's become federally legal, they only bought from their friend, or whatever that meant, and they're growing that in their backyard or wherever, using harsh chemicals or maybe nothing at all, or who knows. Whereas we're so regulated that it is safe, and we're using products that are safe for people. A question that I got asked recently was from my dental hygienist. She was scared about the recreational law passing here July 1st, because what is that product going to look like? Does that mean that she's going to be buying things at the dispensary that are grown in someone's backyard? And that's far from the truth. It's going to be under the same strict rules and regulations that we are. We're inspected randomly at any time, any given day, unannounced, and we're held to very strict rules. And I think that's very important going forward.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. You're also, so this is an agricultural industry, like we mentioned before. People don't tend to look at it like that. But it is an ag industry, or you are heavily active in an ag industry. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea too, that we're both working in a male-dominated industry, and sometimes we're looked at a little bit differently because we are female working in a male-dominated industry. So how do you stay positive in an environment like that?
Well, I think my upbringing has allowed me to do that. Fortunately, my father is a great example. He raised me as if I was his son and daughter combined. So I grew up out doing things with him, hunting and fishing, being out on the boat. He never let me feel like I couldn't do something. He made sure I was as independent as possible. I learned how to take all the tires off of my truck and change my oil and all those kinds of things, and kind of push that confidence within me to, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do the hard work. Right. So with that, kind of pulled that with me through college and met my professor, who was also my boss and mentor, and he made my experience in fisheries, which is also a male-dominated industry. He always made me very comfortable and advocated for me as a young woman in a male-dominated industry. And so I learned ways to be confident and assert myself and be respectful and make others respect me and my opinion. And so with that, I've now transferred it to my current position. And it's very empowering and makes me feel prepared for what I'm doing just based off of my previous experience.
Right. So you're not being bossy, you're being assertive.
Exactly.
You're asking for what you need to complete your job or your task. I tell people all the time that persistence and consistency is the key. Yep. Because if you have that one person, whether they're a man or a woman, that's telling you that you can't do something, right, that's when you get it inside your head, like, I guess I can't do this. Yep. But if you stay persistent with what you're doing, you go after it every single day, you stay consistent. Yeah, exactly. The sky's the limit at that point. Yep. So, and I preach that to my coworkers and those that work as my staff, that if you want something, it's only you that can go get it. And as we grow as a company, we are a corporate business. Medical cannabis is a massive industry right now, and it's corporate. So with that, you can feel yourself being a little bit small sometimes, but you can't let that consume you. You are your advocate. So if you're not screaming from the mountaintops for what you want and what you deserve, then you're not going to get it. And your friend or your coworker isn't going to get it for you either. So only you can speak to that. I just got goosebumps. I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's going to be like my quote on my actual description of the episode. Right. I love that. Yep. Yeah. That's got me through it, really. Yeah. So I wanted to ask too, before I jump into my last question, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on? I don't think so. I just think it's just driving it home that this isn't scary. This is an opportunity to jump into a field that seems maybe a little bit terrifying, but it's very new and there's so much to learn, and everyone is always very open to teaching and educating you, asking questions. I probably drove people nuts when I first started because I was always asking questions, but that's how you get answers. So right. Having the questions to ask and getting your foot in the door. But like I said, you can take that wherever. You can be in marketing, or you could be in HR, or you could grow plants, really, really whatever you want. So it doesn't matter what your background is, there is a place for you in this industry. Exactly. I love that. My last question for you really stems from the FFA Creed. And I know you weren't an FFA kid, but that's okay. 4-H is close. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So the beginning of the FFA Creed begins with, I believe in the future of agriculture. So why do you believe in the future of agriculture? I believe in the future of agriculture because this is the future. Growing something in a precision, very high-tuned environment is what is going to produce food for our country. Our population only keeps rising, and we have to find availability for this. Growing indoors allows for 2-tier or 3-tier or however many systems that's more canopy space, that's more consumable products, whether it's lettuce or smokable flower and cannabis. So the sky's the limit with that. And we spoke about growing indoors, but outdoors is an option too. And row cropping and things like that are also very popular in cannabis, just like anything else. So there's just a lot of opportunity to grow and learn. And like I said before, cannabis is like any other plant out there. If I want to go grow tomatoes or peppers or anything like that, I could too. Yeah. That was a tough question, but great answer. Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you so much for agreeing to share your story. It means a lot to so many different people that this is becoming legal and this is becoming a thing now. So I appreciate what you're doing. for women in agriculture and for the ag industry as a
Yep.
whole. And thank you for sharing that story.
Yes, of course. It's very unique, and I can't wait to see where it takes me.
Absolutely. And thank you for being such a great friend.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I always wrote my friends into doing things like this, so I appreciate that.
Yes.
And thank you guys at home for listening to this Farmer Friday. That concludes this interview. Make sure that you are tuning in next week to see who I might have. And as always, please remember to thank your farmers.